to Spectacular Magazine Shorts. I'm your host, Phyllis Coley. Today we are going to talk about social justice, racial equity, the Duke Energy Foundation grant, and I'm going to be talking to one of the recipients of that grant and talk about how that money is going to be used to better our community. Today, my guest is Frederick Ravin, who is the chairman of the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, Inc., which is the nonprofit arm of the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People. Hello, Frederick.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And what about you today?
I am doing splendid.
Wonderful. So, when did the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People start their nonprofit arm?
They actually started it in 2014. It was the late Mr. Or shall I say Senator Hunt actually started the organization along with the committee. Of course, he was the chair at the time. And they started in 2014 as another tool or another vehicle to create more change within the community. And
so this was Senator Ralph Hunt?
That's correct.
Right, okay. And so what do you do differently in the nonprofit than the organization itself?
I think the one thing that's important to note is that the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, Inc. is an actual incorporated entity. It is a nonprofit, it is a 501c3. So we are able to actually accept donations, which are tax deductible. That's just our inside pun that we are always accepting donations. But they were actually able to accept donations and actually do a lot of work. A lot of times what we like to do is to support a lot of the efforts that are already ongoing within the community. A lot of times you'll find that a lot of nonprofits, they have a mission or they have a goal to create change only by themselves, whereas our goal is more or less to actually work with the organizations in the community that already exist. And just because of our history and because of the group of people that have always helped make the committee, it allows us to leverage our full body membership in order to enact that change that we're looking for.
The work that you're doing, is it for Durham County because you are the Durham Committee?
We are for the residents of Durham. That is our true purpose. I'm never going to say that it's our ultimate goal to only limit ourselves to that, but we definitely have to take care of home. But in any time that we can actually reach out and work with some of our other, organizations that are like-minded, that we're kind of comparable to, that's always something that we would love to be able to do and be able to build some additional synergies.
So this grant that you have received from the Duke Energy Foundation, how will you use that to further your work in the community?
Well, there's a lot that we want to do, and we definitely have to thank Duke Energy Foundation for having the foresight to actually, start this thing off. This was definitely something that has long been a desire of our organization to do, to implement change, to be the voice of the community. Sometimes you do need that springboard to be able to finance some of these efforts. One of the things that we're big on is making sure, as you know, as a business owner yourself, is creating something is one thing. Being able to maintain it is a whole nother thing. So being able to have an organization with the resources that it does have that allows us to leverage and be able to find one-time funds to focus on areas, and these areas are going to deal with social justice and racial equity, and to be able to empower youth within our community to also work with us. I think it's going to stand the test of time when you look at what we're going to actually be able to accomplish. We have metrics that we're going to be working on, which deals with being able to have these tough conversations that involve race, because it is tough. And having a group of people that are all of the same community isn't going to be how you're going to have that change that you're looking for. We have to be able to reach out to the entire community, multi-generational, multicultural, and be able to just have a sit-down conversation, a courageous conversation. Is actually one of the organizations that we're working with. That's their trademark name, and they deal with these crucial conversations and being able to bring groups together to engage one another, to figure out what actually do injustices look like. Does it have a face? Does it have a name? how has it been so entrenched into our society? And this is going to help us do that and further that goal.
And I'm glad to hear you say that. So it's because for just a group of Black organizations or for Black folk to come together and we all talk about race,
right.
Isn't it's kind of like preaching to the choir?
It is.
So will there be different race or makeup of your group of these conversations?
So one of the I guess one of the stipulations, and it's actually a blessing in disguise, is being able to work directly with the Duke Energy Foundation. Mm-hmm. So they have staff that they're going to also be able to make available towards us. I think a lot of times with us working in the public sector, in a sense, being able to work with a private sector entity as well, it allows you to see two different perspectives on how to actually accomplish a goal. A lot of time, all of our work is based on, we can't do this because we don't have the resources. Mm. Sometimes theirs isn't necessarily their resources that they have, financial, structural, being able to implement changes, that's clearly their strong suit. Whereas we have the bodies, mm-hmm. we have the people that have the lived experience, that we're able to share this lived experience and share some of the things that are often just not seen. We all have to first acknowledge that we do have a certain level of bias that's within each of us, and being able to share our biases with one another sometimes allows us to realize, what's implicit, what's that implicit piece. And that's what the conversations are about. It's about being able to, it's like having a coffee with friends, but finding a friend that you don't know yet, inviting them to the table and being able to talk with complete candor.
And then after the talks, then what's the next step?
After the talk is the action, and mm-hmm. when you're talking about something like this, hopefully no organization thinks they could do this on their own. Hopefully no organization thinks that they complete this within their own lifetime. That's why part of what we submitted in our application to Duke Energy was the multi-generational concept. I just turned 40 this year. I don't have in the back of my mind that we're going to be able to easily solve this. But I think when we bring in and we added in that we're looking for a multi-generational facet to what we're trying to do, to reach out to the college students and even reach out to the high school students, mm-hmm. and let them, enact that change that they're looking for as well. I think that bodes well when you're looking at the long-term success that you may be able to gain from this.
So let's just talk for those people who may not know anything about the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, which is kind of this organization came out of. Just tell a little bit of the history and, about that organization and what it does. So
when you're thinking about Durham, there's a few names that come to mind. And one of them could be like, I don't know, the founder of NCCU, James E. Shepard. Mm-hmm. There's a middle school named after him. We could talk about C.C. Spalding. There's an elementary school named after him. Yeah. Arlen Harris. There's an elementary school named after him. Right. And the list goes on. And I don't want to say any more because I don't want to accidentally forget any. But believe me, they're all important. And really, back in 1935, they were I think it was actually titled the Influential Negroes. Okay. That was kind of like the coin name, and they came together in 1935 to fight for change, to fight for social change. Some people see it as human rights, which it is. It's the right to be treated equal. It's the right to make sure things are happening in an equitable manner, regardless of your race, creed, or color. And that's where it started. So this is about 85 years ago. Yes. And we're still working on it. We're still working. So it's been a constant progression in what we're fighting for. Whether you're fighting for improvements in education, they were definitely on the front line of advocating with the city council and the county commissioners back in the 80s and 90s to merge the school systems, because there was almost a separate but equal when you had the city and the county school system. So there's definitely been a lot of work that's been done in the past, and I don't want to shorten it or simplify the fight because it's still carrying on. but this is just another vehicle to really look at it from a nonprofit, from in the public sector, on how can we help fight for fairness for everyone.
Now, do you accept volunteers to work with the nonprofit? How can people get involved? How can people be a part of these talks that you're talking about?
The first thing is we're always looking for allies.
Okay.
As I said before, nobody wants to do this fight on their own. Our website is www.dcabp Inc, which is inc.org. And that's the easiest way for everybody to find out all information, about us, as our contact number, our website. It provides people with a little bit of our history as well. You'll see some of the pictures of Black Wall Street that we have in the background of it, and it's new. We just put it up because we've just been moving towards a new path of being able to first heighten awareness about what we've been doing. We've realized that we're in a new stage in our community, and it's a global thing of being able to have that online presence, to be able to spread the word, not just through marches, but through your phone. We have to be able to connect with you by any means necessary.
Did the tragic death of George Floyd, did the Black Lives Matter movement, did that speed up your calendar on the work that you were going to do, because so much was happening with Black Lives Matters and the protest and social justice?
I'm going to say that was just a moment in awe. That was one of the moments in time you did not know what was going to happen. The entire country, and I think the whole world is still looking at it. You could look at the marches that they're currently having in Brazil, where the indigenous and the Black communities down there are fighting for representation and fighting for fairness. So this is a global drive, and it's going to probably be slow moving. But it's going to stay churning, and everybody is going to stay working. So from my perspective on that, it definitely wanted us to do more. Everybody was asking, what can I do? A lot of people finally felt that, you couldn't afford to not be in the fight with everybody else. And it's not about sometimes being on, like I said, it's not always about being in a march. Sometimes it's being able to provide the resources that you have, whether that's your time or whether that's the funds to help finance everybody else that's already doing the work. It's all hands on deck, but it doesn't mean that all hands need to be on the same deck. So.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. It's just like, so that there's something for everyone to do, and everyone's skill set, everyone's passion can all be put to work.
Yes, it can.
Frederick, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to us about the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, to talk to us about the Duke Energy Foundation Social Justice and Racial Equity Grant. And I wish you so much luck, and hopefully by next year we'll be able to have you guys will be able to have your annual Founders Day banquet, where we learn even more about the work of the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People. I have been visiting with the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People Inc. Director, Frederick Ravin. The Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People Inc. is the nonprofit arm of the committee. They received a grant from the Duke Energy Foundation, and they're going to continue the social justice work and racial equity work that the organization has been doing for the past 85 years or so. Thank you so much for visiting with me today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I want to thank you guys for watching. I'm Phyllis Coley. Next time, see ya.
Spectacular Magazine. We on the scene.